Why did everybody at home just hear Howard Dean shrieking?
That, I think, is a combination of the particular microphone that he was using and the fact that the engineer mixing this for broadcast didn't mix the room into the scene. In every instance that I know of, there are multiple microphones being sent to the engineer that go out for broadcast, and one of them comes from the camera, one probably comes from some room mics, and one from this microphone that you see in the image. As the engineer, you're supposed to pull all this together to create a representation of what's going on.
Other than his voice being isolated, the sound that comes out sounds almost like a shriek. It's not a sound that we're used to hearing. Does that have anything to do with the microphone or how he's talking into it?
Normally, anybody holding a microphone, the louder they get, the farther they pull the microphone away from them, because it starts to then overload the microphone. And I can give you an example. I mean, this is me getting louder and louder and louder on the same microphone, and if I were to really hold it and talk to you like this, you get this distortion. And his instinct, because it's so loud in the room, I think, is to just try and be heard over the crowd. And so you see in the picture, the microphone is like right in his mouth.
So what Dean sounded like on TV didn't give us the whole picture. That's one argument of the Scream skeptics. But once media outlets had that isolated audio, why did they play it a whopping 633 times? Dean's campaign manager, Joe Trippi, has a theory.
All the party establishment attacks were about he didn't have the temperament to be president, that he was too hot-headed, those kinds of things. And I think the media was sort of handed a gift. Here's a great way we can put the exclamation mark on that narrative that the establishment had been selling.
And that brings us to the other prevailing theory, that the media actively worked against Dean, or even felt threatened by him. In one thread posted on Reddit, someone writes, quote, "I watched the whole thing play out, and it was clear that the news media cut his throat deliberately," end quote. The thinking goes like this. When Howard Dean was the frontrunner, he went on hardball with Chris Matthews and said, quote, "We're going to break up the giant media enterprises," end quote. In a blog post at the time, someone wrote that this, quote, amounted to a declaration of war on the corporations that administer the flow of information in the United States, end quote. It's a big claim. To be clear, we don't have any evidence of that kind of coordinated conspiracy. What we do have, though, are admissions by media members themselves that they got carried away. This is Diane Sawyer, a week and a half after the Iowa caucus.
The president of CBS said, individually we may feel okay about our network, but the cumulative effect for viewers with 24-hour cable coverage is it may have been overplayed and, in fact, a disservice to Dean and the viewers, all of us together. And the head of CNN said, we've all been wrestling with this. If we had to do it over again, we'd probably pull ourselves back.
So if the media did have it to do over, would the history of the presidency be different? That's not the story the numbers tell. 538's Harry Enton.
His New Hampshire numbers had fallen by 10 percentage points from where they were in November and December, and nationally he had fallen by already 5 percentage points by the time of the Iowa caucus versus where he was at the beginning of January. So his numbers were already falling as we headed into the Iowa caucus.
Howard Dean would rather be remembered not for that cringe-inducing moment in Iowa, but for leveraging the internet and youth activism, which many say laid the groundwork for the 2008 Obama campaign. And if you ask him today, Dean will tell you, even if indirectly, that actually means he won. For On the Media, I'm 538's Galen Druk.
The Howard Dean Scream documentary was edited by Jody Avirgan, Chloe Prasinos,